You've just found your way to CX in the Wild, Season 2, where Dennis Wakabayashi is again on safari around the world, capturing candid conversations with the leading executives in the customer experience and marketing industries. And now, let's step into this episode of CX in the Wild.
All right, another episode of CX in the Wild. I met you. We have been talking online. You happen to be in New York. When we talked originally, because I don't do these podcasts over the internet, I only want to meet people in the wild and talk real time. But you were in New York, and it just was a perfect opportunity for us to get together here. Why don't we just start out, tell the audience your name, who you are, what you do.
I'm Carl Riley is my name, and it's funny that I would say that I'm a designer, but I've gone through different phases of life. I think I always wanted to be an artist, and then I went into business school, and so I became a strategist at an agency. I kept trying to get closer and closer to creativity. Because I grew up in the time where you had to go to business school. Artists didn't make any money, so I came sort of the really super long way around to try to have a creative career. So I've spent a lot of time as a strategist in design agencies, and I went back to design school. And now that I'm 20 years into this, I feel like I can call myself a designer. So because I think I have more to offer coming at it from a place of design than competing in the big school of sharks in business, because I'm a designer who's very sensitive to the strategic piece of it.
I want to just thoughtfully go a little bit deeper into that water. I too started out as a designer, graphic designer, and classically trained the elements of design, why they work. I'm amazed today how many designers there are who can't even explain Gestalt to you and why it works. But no shade on them. I just think that there is a long history of knowledge about the way things fit together. I will say that I just right in listening to you open, I remembered I always have feelings of why I wanted to have you on this podcast. I just love how you said you wanted to get closer and closer to creativity. And I think you're right to acknowledge this idea of we have to make money in this world. And for some reason, people, when you say you're a designer or you're creative, they liken us to, I think, starving artists. Which it invalidates or doesn't hear. Design is about the way things fit together. And oftentimes, I think visual designers tackle the unspoken psychology or the intuition of human beings, which is why I think designers, particularly designers who are graphic designers, have they have an extra tool in their tool belt that gets us closer to customer experience. And I that's my own pontificating.
I think it's frustrating, because it's frustrating from the standpoint of knowing how powerful your toolbox is in the world of business. And as you say when you say design or you say art, sometimes the power of the business tool that you have is lost in that conversation. You have to go out of your way to say, no, but I'm a designer who really understands strategy and believes in research. But truly, design, when you go back to the very beginning, I'm saying things that have already been said, but it's always been about the human, right? Design has always been about creating something that works for the user. And so then the dawn of customer experience, I feel like we've been working in human experience this whole time. So it's exciting to see customer experience get so much attention on the sort of the business side. And I think, especially even in retail design, which was my specific specialty and where I grew up, in the retail agencies, we were always designing an experience for people, and we were always strategic about it. And now I think CX has really expanded our tools, but I still don't see, and which is what I was telling you about, when we talked last. I don't see as intentional the connection points between, a lot of the great insights that CX provides, and the design, and design, those two fields. I don't always see the connective tissue.
Well, I'll tell you something. I'm teaching this business transformation workshop at the event tomorrow for CMOs. And you're making me think about an aspect of transformation that you probably instinctively know, but I try to remind people because so much of what customer experience design is data design.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, it definitely has its place. However, when I explain to people about designing experiences that matter, convert, create revenue, I talk about the importance of engaging the senses. So that's your eyesight or what you hear. Cinnabon, they've got an angle on the olfactory experience.
Yeah.
And so many of the things that we hear in the mainstream are all about clicks, or visits, or things that are really impacted by and measured by data. And
I'm I don't know how to say this, but I love, probably like many people, I love technology and hate technology. I grew up building physical spaces, and I love the human experience. And I don't think that there's enough of us out there, defending humanity in everything that we do. We actually use a tagline, "Defiantly Human," for our work. I love that. I love it too. It just seems so right, and I just wish everyone started with the human. And I think a lot of the money goes to technology, a lot of the buzz goes to technology, but I would love to see, sort of an equal effort around humanity in terms of, measuring the experience that you and I are having right now, like this physical, face-to-face, one-on-one experience. And I think it sometimes goes unmeasured, like, and maybe we can't measure it, but it's so important, and it can be served by technology. You are using technology right now in a way that is complementary to our human experience, and so that's what I think I love to be passionate about.
I'll show you something that you made me think of. I was interviewing a lot of the leaders who created Expo 2020 Dubai. It is both figuratively and literally the greatest experience of mankind so far.
Yeah.
And one of the leaders there was did the architecture.
Okay.
So Expo 2020 was twice the size of Monaco, the city of Monaco. And in the architecture, they even planned for the spaces in between the buildings and the direction so that in the heat of the desert, the optimum breeze would pass around the people. They paved the walkways with this elastic sidewalk. When you walked on it, it didn't hurt your feet over a long period of time.
Yeah.
So there you have, someone was thinking about this human experience of, we want this city to be walkable.
Yeah.
We want it not to be sweltering hot all the time or some of the time, or at least we want to, and in many ways, we want to be symbiotic with nature. And like, where is the journey map in a major corporation where they're like, okay, this is the symbiotic with nature touch point?
Yeah. No, we actually were just doing a project where we were looking at that. We were helping a city actually imagine taking a commercial district that was, it's pretty much strip plazas and cars. So if you think about, the world was designed around that convenience at the moment, or at that moment, and they wanted to turn it into a village. So taking an entire part of town, which was this commercial district, and make it really the growth engine to the town. So major transformation. So we did a lot of research around the humanity of building a village, and it's just so interesting, isn't it, that really we go back to the beginning, don't we? Like when society was built around the human, because there wasn't a car or roads or so it's funny. I think to see the values uh, reflect us, sort of go full circle back to that, in terms of just the scale, and being not about cars, but about people, not about 7-lane highways, but about sidewalks and pathways and boardwalks. And those are all human scale pieces. So it doesn't surprise me that we're kind of going back full circle. And so even the things that you're talking about, really understanding the environment, the movement of the sun, and, the seasons, I think that those things were all sort of built around before, and technology has taken us in other directions, and we're kind of coming all the way back. So
Yeah, it's true. It'd be interesting when we go out into space.
oh my gosh, yeah,
When there's
more
that.
technology.
But I
That
appreciate
scale.
your attention to that connection between us and our environment and
Yeah.
our spaces and the sun. I guess it's about context.
Yeah, and we have done a lot of work around, and I'll just say this because I find it so fascinating, around socio cultural science and psychology, I should say, or it's still science, but sociocultural psychology is one of the few, maybe even the only one, I believe, that takes into account the physical. So a lot of psychology thinks about our mind, and how the mind works, but sociocultural psychology believes that we learn about ourselves through our surroundings, through the people that we're social with, through our families, through our friends. So that's how, all learning is social, according to sociocultural psychology. And it's interesting as a designer to really dig into that, because, we pass everything around us, everything in our world, they're all cues that either reinforce something, right? Reinforce that you're in the right place or you're in the wrong place. You're in a good neighborhood, you're in a bad neighborhood. So these are all physical cues that tell stories. And so I think it's interesting. That's how we approach, brand building, actually, brand experience building. Is we think about the social space, we think about the objective space, like the physical environment, and we think about the subjective, which is a person's point of view on the world.
I think it was a Steven Seagal movie from the 80s, but it was another 80s movie nobody else would probably want to watch, but consume a lot of media. And in that movie, the narrator said there was like a car going through Detroit or New York or somewhere, and it was saying, basically the narrator was saying, there are all these buildings, all these houses, all these businesses, all these neighborhoods, but somehow each person knows where their neighborhood begins and where it ends.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's no signs for that.
No, yeah. So that's context. I mean, that's a really interesting way, I think, to understand human beings, and it's really to really understand our holistic experiences as human beings.
So let's talk about that. Yeah, obviously, this is CX in the wild. It's not two guys blabbering in New York in the wild. I wanted your voice on here. Many of the other speakers have come from a place of technology or leadership or implementation. And I think what I thought about you is you're coming from this place of creation. Can you, I know you do this for a living, so I don't want you to give away the store, but can you talk about your process or your philosophy or the approach? And let me contextualize why I think this is important to the audience. I talk to a lot of people say, how do I do CX? And I always feel like, well, which part do you do? And so I want to hear your voice for all those out there who want to create experiences, you know.
Yeah, yeah. It's, I think that, first of all, I would say that we probably approach it from a brand perspective,
Fair.
you know,
Thank you.
so a brand experience perspective.
And what does that
And
mean? Let's just break that
mhm,
down. What is a brand experience?
yeah, I mean, I think really understanding the spirit, you know, just like, you know, the spirit of Dennis, the spirit of the brand, really understanding why a brand exists in the world, what value it brings to the world, you know, what promises it makes the world, who is part of its, who does it really want to be social with, who does it want to be a fan of, you know, so really understanding a brand, and what its ambitions are, what it's trying to achieve, and who it's trying to be around, what worlds it's trying to exist within. So that's what, you know, that's where I think we would start more from a brand perspective, and it's been something that I've been trying to understand. Where does design fit in within the ecosystem of CX? Because CX
That was going to be my next
is
question.
massive. So that's been something that's been sort of my goal over the last 5 years, was to understand how the things we create fit into the CX ecosystem. And in simple, I say we do the touch points. So there's this whole big on stage, off stage. I'm picking up all the terms from CX,
Yeah.
right? On stage, backstage, you know, so things behind the scenes, things
Moments that matter.
yeah. And so I find all that really fascinating. And that machine, I think, can push out interesting insights and data for us to, as designers, to look at. So I think there's like a research connection there, and we want to know how things are performing, or we want to know what people need. But I think we are above the surface, you know, like we're above the ocean line. We are the touch points. We're like the most intimate moments. We create the interaction, between, you know, the customer, the human being, and the brand.
Give us an example of one of your coolest touch points.
Well, I think stores are a pretty cool touch point, you know, because they're physical, they're very tactical. That's, you know, where I have most of my experience. And people, you know, love to get lost in stores for lots of different reasons, or they like to get in and get out, or they avoid them altogether. But I think stores are really fun. You know, they're physical environments. You can really, as you said, like really tap into all the senses, and you have other human beings there, which are
Wow.
even more valuable.
Wow.
Right? Like people to talk to.
Yeah.
Like it's like a terminal place. You don't get lost, you know, online. You can
Now,
actually
I want to
be
challenge.
there.
I want
You
to
can be
challenge
there.
that. First,
Yeah.
I want to acknowledge what you said. So seldom do I hear people crafting experiences where a human being is part of the
Right.
success of that, outside of
Right.
resolution
Retail.
or customer
Yeah.
care, you know, or maybe entertainment. But I will say, I agree with that. I went in. There was the Fort Worth magazine store
Mm-hmm.
in the airport at Dallas on my way here,
Yeah.
and there was this very little bit cleaner and
Mm-hmm.
more uncluttered store,
Mm-hmm.
maybe size of a convenience store that I hadn't seen before, and no one was in it, and it was so clean
Mm-hmm.
and so orderly, and no one was in it, and
Mm-hmm.
I wondered if it was closed, and I got a little closer, and I saw it's one of these stores you can walk in and grab what you want and walk out.
Oh, gosh.
And on the window outside, it said, "Here's what you do: you go up to the gate, you tap your credit card, you walk in, take whatever you want and stuff it in your own bag or grab another bag and leave." And not gonna lie, I felt very uncomfortable by this
Mm-hmm.
equation. Number one, I'm waiting for an airplane. Will I trip up some technology that they're like, wait a second,
Yeah.
we need to rescan this or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
And I had this fear.
Yeah.
And then I had this fear of, do I know how to do that? Do I know how to walk into a store, take what I want, leave?
Right.
Like, I've been so conditioned with all the headache and drama of shopping.
Yeah.
So, but I'm a CX guy, so I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna do it. I walked up, I tapped my card. Sure enough, the gate opened. I'm like, step one, complete.
I didn't steal it.
I walked in, and I looked for a couple things. I threw them into my backpack, and then I walked out.
Yeah.
And sure enough, it all just was
Went to
like
your credit card.
perfect. And I thought, this thing actually works
Right,
exactly
right.
like they've figured it out. I
Right,
can just walk in. I'll never shop. I mean, every store I see like that
Yeah.
is going to get a purchase.
Yeah.
But I couldn't help but realize there's going to be a long delay between me and other people. Are just like,
Yeah.
yeah, I just like.
I think
Can
it's
you imagine
both
just walking
too.
into buildings and taking whatever you want, and leaving, and it'd be
Yeah,
fine?
I think it happens a lot, more and more and more. I mean, we have Amazon's store here in New York, so I've experienced that too, walking in. My experience, there's a Starbucks and an Amazon prototype here where they've come together, and there's like a group of Starbucks people up front, and they're the humans that you run into right away, and then you have to go through the gates and you go and you shop Amazon. It was all so bizarre though, because it does fight with the first thing it does is fight with what you already know.
Yeah.
So we go in and we are not really allowed to talk to the Starbucks people that are standing there. They will take your order, but they really want you to go onto your technology, even though you're standing right there, and order through it, because this is a tech-based concept. So that was kind of uncomfortable, even for the workers. It took us quite a while to get through the gate, so we did struggle with that. And then you're in New York, so when you go in to buy food, it better be good. Like there's so many options here. Getting back to your value question, and it's average. It's like it seemed like an experience that they were definitely testing out the technology and not testing out the quality of the
value,
experience, the value, of the overall experience.
Well, there it gets back to
Yeah.
that thing about tech,
Mhm.
tech design.
It sort of trumped anything else.
But what I will say, at this store, there was one person in the store,
Checking things out.
and she was just wandering,
Mhm.
and I'm certain she was there to tell people it was okay. I walked to the get out, and I looked at her, and she looked at me, and she nodded, and she said, "It's okay, you can go." And I was just like, okay. But she was comforting.
I think you got to meet people where they're at, though. Like, I certainly want convenience when I want convenience, and I want to use a self checkout, But there's other times when you want a human being. But I think more than anything, I think there's so much time and energy being put into tech, and like, congratulations to them. And when I look at the retail sector, we've been fumbling around for a while now, saying like, what's our role? And I think we need to double down on the physical. Like, if I'm going to show up somewhere and actually show up in person, it needs to really be a great physical human sensory experience.
I find it fascinating that you said that, because
Did I go to your next
because
question?
I think I think you're an extrovert.
Oh, that could be.
I'm an introvert.
Yeah.
Nothing's better for me than a store with no one in
Yeah,
it, that no
don't
one
talk
talks
to
to
me.
me,
Yeah.
and I can just
Right.
take care of it. And maybe that's because I'm that human that's here to entertain other people all the time. I'm the worker.
Yeah.
I'm that guy you expect to
Yeah.
be at your
Yeah.
event. So
Well, I don't always think that things have to be. I think we went through that retailtainment phase. Like, I don't necessarily
I
mean
love
that.
retailtainment.
It is great, but like also, like you said, you're an introvert. It doesn't always have to be an over the top experience, and every moment doesn't have to be over the top. Like, and that's what I love about CX, and even digging in to really understand people's needs. Because I think the more you know about people, and the more you know about your shoppers, the more you can actually solve problems on a granular level that actually are super powerful and meaningful, that don't necessarily even require a costly design,
That's right.
retail design. It can be you put the napkins in the wrong place, or the order of the condiments, like as you're going through the line, can be some really like minor tweaks to concepts, or minor insight, what seem like minor insights that open up a lot of value.
Let's talk about those insights.
Yeah.
I hear a lot of people everyone has a system or plan to get these insights from customers, surveys, focus groups, a lot of different ways. I'll tell you I'll just share with you one of mine is when I was working on McDonald's, one of the things I loved to do, it was probably one of my favorite career decision strategy choices, is when I was in rooms with a lot of different owners of McDonald's, and I would talk to them about the customer experience. And what I would do is I would do a journey map, and
Yeah.
I would do a journey map with real customers from their market.
Yeah.
And I would do
great.
the journey, and then you can imagine, let's say a journey, and I did it by time, morning to evening. What does the customer do in each part of that day?
Yeah.
Because we were selling day parts.
Right.
And then I would take that journey, I would cover up all their Post-its, and then above that, I had the exact same journey empty. And I would ask the owner operators to
that's great.
fill in this journey. And then we would go down the row and we would peel them off and see where they were, where they matched up or where they didn't.
Yeah.
And it was a way for me to bring the owner operators closer to the customer in this purely educational and fun way. So that was one way I would say I got to the what did the customer need. What do you do? Because you're not checking website click paths, are you?
Yeah, no. I mean, so I really like qualitative research because it's, you can really get in, dig, and understand. But we also like to co-create with customers. So we go to great lengths to create co-creation toolkits that are around whatever brand or topic we're talking about. And we give our customers a pretty clean, we call it a canvas to work on. And we actually have them design their ideal experience. We have a toolkit to, who was it that, what was the, how customers think, who revealed the book? I can't.
Don't Make Me Think?
How Customers Think.
Oh.
I'm trying to think of the author. He revealed that most of what people do is in their unconscious, the unconscious mind, right? So when you ask a survey, you're just talking to the conscious mind, which is a very small part of a person's decision making. So our toolkits help them tap into their unconscious mind because they're visual. So they're able to, and it doesn't always matter. It's not about the exact image. I don't know how much you've worked with toolkits. It's really, they will assign meaning to photos. So the photos are all, everything in the toolkit stimuli to get to sort of unlock what it is that how they feel and think about things. And the way I really like to use it, I mean, you can use it in a lot of ways. You can literally ask them their thoughts, feelings, and attitudes about a topic and have them show you through visuals. And I love doing that. It's called metaphor site, I think, something like that. Metaphor elicitation. Yeah, I like that because you can take an image that they really like, and you can activate the image. So you can say, what happened 5 minutes ago in that image? What's the next? Where's this person going next? And if you were in that image, like what would you be doing, or who would you be? And it's really interesting because that sort of activates their imagination and really sort of digs in deeper. But we also like to build things with them, and we start by understanding the emotions, and we start by understanding the benefits that they want out of an experience, and then we start to build, get more tactical from that, all through co-creation.
So I love the idea of co-creation. And the reality is brands are co-creating with their customers anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or they're not
Yeah.
to some degree. And I think Netflix is a perfect example.
Yeah.
They lost 1 million customers. 1 million customers said,
yeah,
you're not working with me.
Yeah.
And so, so,
talk to them.
so as we wrap up, I do want people to understand, I think you've said a lot of interesting things. I do want people to know where your business is, how they can get in contact with you, and what is all this creative thinking or discussion we've had? What does that mean for a brand who wants to work with someone like you? Because brands, they need all kinds of different CXers. Tell us about your business specifically and what you deliver to brands.
Yeah. So I like to say we bring more magic and meaning to brands. So and I think wherever you are in the sophistication level, you can always have more magic and meaning. And so, as designers, I think we create magic. Like that's why I like the word, because it's like clever wording, or it's just a great side. There's that sort of visceral understanding of something that, isn't going to be on the business side. It's got to come from creativity. So that's the magic. And the meaning is through the research and also through CX work, where so on the front end, really understanding customers and what they need and designing for them. And then on the back end, continuing to measure that design on going through voice of customer systems and making iterative changes. So a design is evolving over time, and that's what I really ultimately love. And we've got the team in place to do everything from the research to the brand development to the design of the touch point, and then to help customers build listening systems if they don't already have them, just to measure the touch points that we bring into the world.
Have you ever heard of a company called Digital Mortar?
No, I've not.
Oh my God. So there's this guy, Jesse. He's one of the founders there. I met him early on.
Yeah.
He has been pioneering and working to measure retail spaces. Mm-hmm. So he has all kinds of different ways to sense, to track, to monitor what's happening, to quantify the success of a journey within a retail environment.
Yeah.
Digital Mortar, that's my gift to you.
Thank you very much. And where people can find us. I'm in New York. I'm based in New York. I work with a team that's in different locations across the U.S. You can always email me at carl@rileygroupinc.com. And our website is rileygroupinc.com. Our Instagram is Riley Group Inc. So yeah, that's how you
Riley
can find
Group
me.
Inc. I went to your website just because, and I really it hit me. I thought your position was great. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Yes, it's been a pleasure.
And that's another episode of CX in the Wild.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for this edition of CX in the Wild. If you've enjoyed the show today, please share it with someone else who appreciates this kind of original content. And be sure to visit DennisWakabayashi.com to catch up with Dennis or find out where we're going to be on our next CX in the Wild adventure.